welcome back to another one of my videos. I'm Alex and I'm the Wondering Englishman, and today you find me in all places, Chișinău, Moldova. Now it's been 6 years since I made a video from here. Yeah, I'm here with Lenin again. Thumb down, Lenin. 6 years, can you believe that? And that video I think had over 85,000 views. So I think it was long overdue that I made a video again in Chișinău. And I wanted to see what's changed. And first impressions, and I'm going to show you those impressions, it's changed dramatically and it's changed for the better. You might remember videos from Bald and Bankrupt.
Chișinău is the least visited capital city in all of Europe.
You might remember videos from myself and other vloggers showing how Chișinău was a complete mess.
Look at this. This is how little the government has done for this city. But even here, in the very centre of the nation's capital, look at it. Look, there's bloody steps missing.
There was graffitis of dicks everywhere.
More penises on the wall. They do love a good penis here in Moldova.
So far, I haven't seen a single dick.
And we thank God for that.
I'm excited to be here, and I'm here on a beautiful day. I'm wearing the wife beater.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's hot. It's 31 degrees Celsius, so I'm a little bit hot, a little bit frazzled, but I got the factor 50 on. So I'm ready to show you Chișinău and see what's changed and what I missed maybe last time. So join me in this epic adventure of Chișinău. But first, before we do anything, we must have our morning coffee. It's the best way to start the day, and it's the best way to keep yourself energized for a productive day ahead.
For relaxing times, make it Suntory time.
Straight away we notice a change. Remember 6 years ago, you probably don't, you probably haven't watched that video, although 85,000 of you did, and this road was nothing like it was when we were last here. The whole road has been pedestrianised, the whole road has been made to look beautiful. There's a piano running down the street. It goes all the way up to the main square. You can see the church, the cathedral in the distance, and it is superb what they have done in terms of the city changing, in terms of making itself look more beautiful. The city has done a remarkable job, and I was speaking to the owner of the restaurant, Van Gogh, well, Wine Gogh restaurant, and he was telling me how the locals are now very fond of their mayor. This is a mayor unlike someone like Sadiq Khan or some useless politician that rules their country. He is actually doing a good job, apparently. He came to power after I did my video for 5 days in Moldova, and since he came to power, he's gone to town when it comes to, look at this, look at the craftsmanship. Now, you might remember videos from myself or even videos from Bald and Bankrupt where they're talking about how the footpaths are all broken up and how the stairs are all broken and how there's graffiti everywhere.
I mean, imagine trying to push a wheelchair up here with like 2 uneven bits of metal. It's a disaster.
But first impressions, now granted I'm in the centre, first impressions, it's a very, very, very well-maintained city. Complete turnaround from 6 years ago. And I'm in utter shock. What we're going to try and find out in this video, has the whole place had a massive turnaround, or is it just sort of the centre that's had a massive turnaround? But join me while we take in Chișinău. I mean, it's dramatic. It's really dramatic. I mean, granted, we still have the brutalist architecture. This is old Soviet buildings.
It is brutal and cruel and dark.
Now cordoned off. Maybe they're going to be tearing this one down. Or maybe, oh, well, no, what you see is they're not going to be tearing it down. Maybe it will be similar to what you saw in, or what you may have seen in LA, where brutalist architecture has had a revamp. I mean, you could almost turn this into the standard hotel or the standard bar. You can see they're repairing the steps over here. They can prove the front of this place, and then suddenly you've got a standard hotel right in the middle of Chișinău, and why not? I mean, I could be wrong, obviously, but Mayor, that's an idea. Invite the standard hotel to come to your city.
You developed a sudden interest in hotel architecture.
I mean, look at this. This is a country that's supposed to be one of the poorest countries in the world, and 6 years ago, it looked it. But look how immaculate this tree is. Beauty.
She's a beauty, isn't she?
We've got lights up. When I first arrived in Chișinău, my first ever time in Chișinău, there was no street lamps, barely any street lamps.
It was dark.
Look at this. We don't just have USB slots, we actually have plugs. you want to sit down and work on your laptop here, plug your phone in, plug your laptop in, you can sit here and do a little bit of work. This is fantastic. I mean, granted, we're on a little bit of a busy street, but we've got umbrellas that light up here. I'm sure this looks very pretty at night time. I almost want to go say hello to the mayor and congratulate him on the work he's done, because the change is phenomenal. It's like the girl you never noticed, or the ugly girl at school, she suddenly turns into Cinderella, and she's suddenly the beauty queen, the one that everyone wants to be with. This is phenomenal. But let's continue, because there's a statue over here I want to show you. I mean, even this, they've made the car park look phenomenally beautiful. It's not a piano anymore, but it's keeping with the trend that it looks like a piano as we approach the car parks. The cars are all beautifully aligned. Cars can really be an eyesore on the cities sometimes, but this space, and look, I don't see any sort of pay-in displays. It's sort of, if you want to park here, you can park here. The car does seem to still dominate the city. But this was not like this when I was last here. I remember this park over here, and I remember this statue, but it was looking really shabby when I was last here. Leninist. Now what that basically means, if you excuse my mispronunciation of it, is communist youth, the Leninist communist youth. It was set up, I think, 1918. These communists were founded as early as 1999, because this plaque was put here after this statue was put here back in 1951. And it's basically to represent the Soviets that liberated the nation of Moldova and then put it into the sort of downward spiral that it basically became as communism gripped this nation for too many decades. And yet still we have a celebration to what it is, and we're holding on the city right in the middle of the city, and this very busy, now well-maintained part of the city next to what I believe used to be an old cinema. What it represents is the young, victorious Soviet Union lady up at the top, and then 4 people around the edges that sort of represent the sort of sturdiness of the youth, the communist youth. So it's basically Antifa's wet dream. Now, a lot of people on the conservative right, a lot of people in modern day society would demand that this statue be pulled down. I, despite having a real displeasure and, well, to be honest, almost a hatred for communists, I really dislike communists. That's on record. I still think this statue should be here. It's a reminder of the history. It's a reminder that they live amongst us. It's a reminder of they were here before us. And it's a reminder of the fact that, you know, it's a part of history, in the same way that I don't ever want to see statues of any kind being pulled down. And at the same time, this, in its own way, quite a beautiful statue, despite what it represents. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me. If you do disagree with me, leave a note in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to debate you on that one.
You have to remember that this statue commemorates the young who sacrificed their lives to invaders. Ideologically, they may stand against what we believe now, but the fallen must always be remembered.
Now, this is a really nice touch, and I wonder how long this would last in London, in central London that is. In the nice parts of London, this might survive, you know, this is in Hampstead or somewhere. But in central London, wow, I mean, there's no chewing gum or scratches or graffiti on this, and this, I don't know how old this is, but this is a place that people leave their books, and it's a chance to learn about whatever that is, I'm not sure, and I don't know what that is, but it's a chance for a local to sort of swap books, learn about these things in the middle of Moldova. What a nice touch, I really like that. And there's another one over here. This bench is lined with books. Really nice touch, Moldova. You're ticking all the boxes. I think if you were first visiting this place, all of this wouldn't be so much of a joyous surprise, but due to the dramatic change that we see. Look at this, another stretch of this path. We've got hearts in the air, a lady on the swing, dog taking a nap in the shade. This is really quite dramatic, the changes that have gone on here. I'm really, really impressed. Just like, well, you know, I think I might come down here, have a swing. This is really, really phenomenal. And I remember what this was like. This was really drab. And because of the busy road, it wasn't nice to walk around here. But now it's all lit up at night time. It doesn't feel dangerous. The pollution is being, in a way, contained by the new trees that have been planted. These are all new trees. The mayor, well done, mayor.
I'm not sponsored by the Moldovan government or any tourist board. If you're liking this content, smash that like button and click this subscribe button. It helps a small channel like this grow, and we are a long way away from where I'd like to be.
Just some fruit and veg on the side streets. Heading off down a side street now just to try and get a little bit perspective on, well, to see if anything's changed on the side streets. Rarely that's the case. And also, I remember staying in a building just there, and the whole place has changed dramatically. I spent quite a lot of time in Moldova 6 years ago.
Alright, you alright?
Not too bad. How are you doing? You English? Yeah, I'm okay. I am terrible when it comes to keeping the camera on when we get these little interactions. You guys that are vloggers that are able to have these interactions. Guy from Moldova there who'd been working in Northampton, and he had a Moldovan English accent. Really interesting accent there. He's saying things have improved here, although salaries haven't gone up as much as he'd like. But you say that, everyone's driving nice cars. And you know what? It feels a lot safer here than it does if you're in London. Hello. Than if you were in London. You know, if you were trying to walk through an estate holding a camera in London, you'd have the rude boys possibly coming up to you, disrespecting you. Here, guys saying pleasant hellos. Well, let's see. Maybe that will change, and this footage may never make it to the cutting room floor because maybe it's a disaster. Who knows? Look at this. Now here we are. We got a little bit of a walk to get to this monument. It's a monument dedicated to Mr. Orlov, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about Orlov as we get there. But he's just over here in the park, and we're going to head over there now. Thank you very much. Polite drivers here. I didn't get run over. Not too bad. All right, let's go see this monument.
A monument.
This is Mihail Orlov, a general, a renowned Freemason. A lot of Freemasonry symbology in this part of the world. But he was a participant in the Napoleonic Wars. He agreed to the Allied surrender in the 1820s. After 1820, he basically moved to Chișinău, which is the reason he's celebrated in Chișinău. He was what would be described as a liberal in 19th century standards. He wanted to abolish corporal punishment. He wanted to look after the lower ranks of the army because he was a general. He didn't like the corporal punishment that was going on. He was a big fan of the arts, literary, poetry, to the degree that when Alexander Puskin, who was also living in Chișinău, this wonderful great city, he and Puskin, Mihail Orlov and Alexander Puskin would often have dinners together, and they would be seen wandering the streets of Chișinău together. But what was more frequent was the arguments that these two had. Arguments so fraught with devotion and passion that eventually these two would fall out to the degree that I think in 1836 Alexander Pushkin wrote in a letter to his wife that he thought this man was a seriously intelligent man, but he couldn't stand talking to the man anymore. Effectively, he's associated with the Decembrists. Alexander the Tsar died in 1825, and in 1825, when he died, the thought was Constantine, who was his brother, would come to the throne. Constantine did not want to come to the throne, and it was thought that Constantine would come to the throne with a new constitution, a constitution giving the freedom of speech, free rights to the people, and ending serfdom, which is something that he pushed for. He didn't want serfdom to continue. Serfdom would eventually end, I think, in around about 1861, something that Taras Shevchenko would push for. He would obviously push for, but he never got to see the end of serfdom in his lifetime, because once the Decembrist uprising happened, I think December 15th, 1825, the Decembrist uprising happened in St. Petersburg Square. 3,000 troops gathered.
Разве ты привез нам Конституцию?
Я приехал не для переговоров.
Their motto was Constantine and the Constitution. But the thing is, this message wasn't portrayed in the manner that it should have been portrayed. People thought the Constitution was Constantine's wife or girlfriend. So they didn't understand what the Constitution was. And I think that's a classic case of not getting your political message across. So what then happened was Nicholas stepped forward. Nicholas gathered enough troops. Fired upon the 3,000. Arrested them, captured the main instigators. He wasn't one of them, but he was associated with the Decembrists. The main instigators were then hung publicly in St. Petersburg Square, 5 nooses attached to them, and all 5 ropes broke. Now, under normal tradition, if the execution can't be completed, for example, the rope breaks, then tradition states that the person should be set free. Tsar Nicholas basically said, hang them again. This would be the last time that the Tsar would do a public execution before obviously the end of it. But then this man was then forced to effectively live in exile. He died sometime in the 1830s. He died a poor man eventually, but he's celebrated here. Some people like him, some people really dislike him. Make of him what you will. But the fact that he wanted to end serfdom, I think, gives him a few tick points in my books. Note the sound of construction. This whole area has dramatically changed. I don't even think this building existed when I was last here. But the reason I come down this street is because of this red building that we see over here in the distance. This is called the Red Mill. It's listed on the map as a monument, and a monument that was, it's not really a monument, is it? It's basically an old building that was built in 1850. And this was possibly one of the most important buildings back in the middle of the 19th century for Chișinău. It was a 5-story mill where flour was produced and baked goods were produced. And it was incredibly important to the residents of Chișinău. This is where they would come for not all of their bread needs, but a majority of their bread needs. But now, as you can see, all of the windows have been filled in. I guess this stops people squatting because I don't think they really know what to do with it. It's considered a very important building. It wasn't always called the Red Mill. Apparently it got its name after a fire, I think in the 1890s. It is considered an important building, and as you can see, all of these modern buildings that are surrounding it, I think developers would like nothing more to save themselves the bother of just sort of knocking it down. But it would be really nice if a building like this was preserved and maybe made into a beautiful, well, you can make the top floors into a hotel and the bottom floors into a beautiful restaurant. But a lot of controversy and debate is probably going on when it comes to the councillors or the mayor of this town knowing what to do with it. And it is a stark contrast from what we see here. Modern, reasonably new but nice houses. And look, you can see the balcony, and it's a real mess. Just heading back to the centre now, and I've noticed the Academy de Studio Economic, what I think is an economics university. I love these benches that they seem to have everywhere in Moldova. The city, despite having issues, clearly has improved. I know I'm going to keep stressing that. Few ghastly old buildings to note, but the reality is it's definitely on the up, and the can't really say that's the same when it comes to places like London. Thanks, Khan. Thank you, Sadiq Khan, for what you're doing. Nothing. As we walk back to the centre, we walk past these beautiful treed off area where they've got little mini fountains. Quite a nice place to sit. Very cool here with all the trees. Heads of being outside in the sunshine. But when I arrived last night, I was generally utterly shocked. I'm absolutely gobsmacked about how this place has changed. The lights lighting up this park. I remember back in the day, this park, back in the day, 6 years ago when I did 5 days in Chișinău. This park was dark at night, and now we have lights. It's like Edison finally made it to Chișinău. Amazing. I was generally utterly shocked when it came to how busy it was in comparison to 6 years ago. Well, long may that continue in terms of the health of the place. You know, busy doesn't always equal great. London has become too busy, I think. But here we are back at the monument. Now we're going to go a monument that you will remember from my last video, and I want to see how it's doing. Let's see if people stop for me. Let's stop. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so sometimes it's better just to sort of get across these roads as quickly as possible. Try not to get hit. They have a lot of the rental bikes, lime scooters here. They have rental scooters here. Oh, there we go, they stopped for me. There we go. That's nice of them. I think it was more they stopped for the babushka, but they stopped for me, so I'm happy with that.
High up above or down below, when you're too in love to let it go. But if you never try, you'll never know.
Now you might remember this monument from my last video, and I have to say, if my memory is correct, it is looking a lot better in this video. The flower beds are well maintained, all of the weeds are out of the cracks when it comes to the stone down here. The flowers are placed here. This is a memorial to remember the displaced Jews who were forced into a ghetto in this part of Chișinău between 1941 and 1942 by the Nazis. Similar, if you remember my video on Oskar Schindler's Factory, you'll remember that in that video, at the beginning of that video, you will have seen the Jewish ghetto in Krakow. Similar ghetto, this encompassed a number of blocks, and at its peak, 11,500 Jews were basically forced to live in this ghetto in very crowded conditions where very few goods were allowed to come into the ghetto, and at one point up to 25 people a day were dying of things like typhoid and just sickness. Really awful conditions. Eventually the 11,500 Jews were transported, sent on a long journey to what is now Transnistria, to a town called Orhai. You might remember my video from Transnistria, and Orhai is where they were sent. Who knows how many of the 11,500 survived. The displacement of the Jews from this part of the world was dramatic in the fact that all 11,500 of those residents of Chișinău were forced to move. And this monument remembers them. Memories, I spent about maybe 9 days in there. Despite my video being 5 days in Chișinău, I came back to Chișinău a number of times and followed up by staying in Chișinău in a number of different places. And I stayed in, I think, the apartment just to the side of the building there. What I did know at the time though was when I was living here, or staying here for almost 2 weeks, that period of time when I stayed in that building, this was all dirt, there was all rubble here. And this building was certainly not here. This is a brand new building that, just like much of Chișinău, has sprung up. You can see the contrast between the old and the new, and the contrast is dramatic. These are clearly imagined residential buildings, as are these residential buildings, but I think we all know which one you prefer to be living in. Look at the safe fire escape here, the modern, sturdy, beautiful decor of these buildings, and the fact that there's a number of, I keep noticing, similar to what I remember noticing when I first entered Ukraine many years ago, back in 2013, there's a large number of very expensive cars Some people are doing very well in Chișinău, and I saw someone very important being led up the street a moment ago in his black 4x4, followed by 2 security cars, all in black. Some people are clearly doing very well, and I don't think he was the president or the mayor. Now we're walking up Alexander Pushkin Street. It's obviously a street named after the great Alexander Pushkin. You may remember him from, I'm sounding a bit like that guy from The Simpsons.
I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such movies as Cry Yuma and Here Comes the Coast Guard.
From one of my many Ukrainian videos where there's many statues devoted to Alexander Pushkin. But what I noticed straight away in these new buildings, this is a building I think devoted to the police maybe, and we're going to head up towards the main park of Chișinău. We're going to see the cathedral, we're going to see what's changed, and here's an old favourite place. I remember going to Andy's Pizza back in the day, Andy's restaurant, just over here. I remember there was a pub, hopefully it's still there, there's a pub somewhere around here. It really has changed dramatically, to the point where, oh, I need to cross, red light there, breaking the rules as we go into this, along the streets of Chișinău. I can't cross here into the main park that sort of is the focal point of Chișinău, Moldova. Let's go check it out, shall we? Just going to give you some perspective on how this park is laid out. We are effectively here, and we're going to go along here. Is that right? Where's Pushkin? No, we are here. My apologies. We are here. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go walk towards the cathedral and see what's changed. And I was here, I have to admit, last night briefly, and I was shocked at how much this park has improved. Prices on coffee here, just in case you're interested. 20 Moldova is around about €1.03, probably about $1.13, probably. Don't quote me on that, that could change at any moment as the dollar collapses or euro collapses. So, give you a perspective, cappuccino, probably you can pick up for about €2, just under €2. €1.90, $2 for a cappuccino. Bear in mind, if you go to any park in the centre of any capital city in the world, usually the coffee places in the centre of the park are some of the most expensive, so that gives you some perspective. Although I have to admit, prices have gone up. I was in a place just having a morning coffee before I started this little tour, and I was a little bit shocked. It wasn't as cheap as I was expecting, but it was a very nice place. There were some very wealthy individuals at that place. What you immediately notice, all of these trees are new. Everything is new. The mayor has gone to town in trying to improve his city. He's done a fantastic job. New streetlights, we've got cameras up here to make it safer. We've manicured. The biggest complaints that myself and a lot of other people I noticed who were visiting Chișinău found that they were tripping up all the time because there were potholes everywhere. That is certainly not the case now. And this tree clearly has just been recently planted. The ground is fertile. I don't know if they're going to be now seeding it, putting grass down. I would imagine that might happen, but I'm here where there's no grass and everything is brand new. But we still have the ancient trees that have been here for a long time, but they're trying to obviously to turn it into a bit more of an oasis right in the center of the city that surrounds the big cathedral right here.
So on my laptop I've done a little bit of research into what the Chișinău Council has done to the city since I visited. It turns out they spent €400,000 on the modernisation of Chișinău Cathedral Park. This is the park that we are now in. €400,000 is all it takes to make a park like this beautiful. Now, that sort of money is spent in a day by Sadiq Khan in London on tea and biscuits and his PR agents. It just goes to show that with the right leadership, you can have nice things. I'm deeply impressed with Chișinău.
This was constructed in 1832 and it has neoclassical design. I think hopefully I can get in wearing this vest, but let's try.
More importantly, this is the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ's Nativity, and it is located slap bang in the center of Chișinău. It is the Moldovan Orthodox Church. It is a majestic cathedral which was commissioned originally by Prince Mikhail Semyonovich Vorontsov, excuse my pronunciation there. He was effectively the governor of New Russia. It was designed in a neoclassical style by Abram Melnikov, who is known for his similar work in Bolorad. The cathedral has faced various challenges over the years. It suffered damage during the Second World War, and its bell tower was demolished in 1962 by local communists, only to be reconstructed in 1997. The Soviet period saw the cathedral being used as an exhibition centre where actually banned activities of worship. The design features a simple and clear facade with 6 Doric columns at the entrance. The building has undergone several restorations due to the many destructions it has suffered over the years, leading to changes in its shape. The current zinc dome with its cross added in 1997 was built over the previous structure. Inside the cathedral, which was blank during the Soviet era, now features the painted walls which we now see in a very pure Orthodox style, which I have to say I really do like.
I just realised I was very inappropriately dressed in there, so I couldn't really spend too much time in there once I realised that. There's nothing worse than disrespecting the local culture, so it was time to have a quick look and then time to leave. Hopefully you guys get a chance to be there. I might head in there later when I'm a little bit more appropriately dressed, but no wife beaters and no shorts should really be worn in that church. Make a note to yourself. That's often not the case in certain parts of Europe, but it is in the more sort of traditional places. It's certainly not appropriate to wear short skirts, and men should always generally take their hats off, whereas women tend to cover their heads. That's generally what happens. You might notice the bell tower. You often see these in many European cities, and you often see these attached to cathedrals like this. It was actually built at the same time as the cathedral in basically the 1830s. However, it was demolished in the 1960s by the pesky Soviets. They thought it would be appropriate to demolish it, but thankfully in 1998 it was rebuilt, and it sort of has a very impressive place right here in the center of the square, and it rings out every day on the hour, and it's often a place that people will come New Year's Eve to celebrate the new year. This whole square will be filled with people as they wait for the bells to ring at 12 o'clock. Popular point to get one's photo done, the Arch of Triumph. A little bit similar to the Arc de Triomphe in the center of Paris, or the west side of Paris. A little bit smaller, and you also probably remember it from my 5 days in Chișinău video. A focal point and a point marking the spot of the Russian-Turkish war that took place, I believe, in 1777 to 1778. The war lasted something like 10 months. And at the end of it, something like 400,000 people had been killed. Probably another 1 million people had been displaced. But the victors was the Russian Empire. They had pushed back the savages of the Ottoman Empire and effectively won the war, which had taken place in this part of the world, in the Balkans and the Caucasus. And this monument, built in the 1830s, celebrates their victory and remembers the fallen, probably, if we're being politically correct, on both sides, but in reality the fallen 280,000 men that would have fallen in battle, and those that gave their lives to the victory. First time I ever came to Moldova, one of the first buildings I ever saw when I ventured away from the hostel that I was staying in some 6 years ago was this building. This is the main government building. It's the Ministry of Economics, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Environment, but it's the main government offices where the civil servants do much of their work. I'm thinking that this train possibly represents those that were deported. Maybe, I don't know. I don't remember these carriages here last time, but a real focal point at the main square, at the top end of the main square. What we're going to do is we're going to head into a park. I have much fondness for this park over here, and we're going to see if anything's changed there. It was very shabby last time I was here, but if it's anything like the rest of Chișinău, then it's probably greatly improved. On the edge of this very, very busy road where the Arc of Triumph is over there, and the government buildings are over here, we have the epic Stephen the Great. Now, Romanians, and I know this is not Romania, this is Moldova, consider him to be their most important figure, their most impressive figure, and their favorite figure. And to be honest, I do not blame them, because this man was a warrior, he was a fighter, he was probably one of the greatest kings of this area. He came to power in 1457 when King Bogdan was assassinated, and he came to power. And he came to power, you have to forgive me as the sirens go past me, he came to a power just as the savages of the Ottoman Empire had taken over Constantinople. Constantinople had fallen, to which it would then become Istanbul. So he was entering an era where the Ottomans were devastating Christian culture. The Byzantium Empire had fallen, and he was suddenly at the gates of Europe where he was facing the Ottomans. Throughout his life, he was a warrior, a fighter, and a commander of armies that went up against the sultans, and he defeated them. It was like a David and Goliath situation. Defeated them to a point where, I think it was in the 1470s, he had an epic victory in the local area. But then sadly the Pope and the cardinals basically submitted to the Ottomans. He and the princes of the local area still had to live under the rule of the Ottomans, but he continued to fight back. And he's also known as the king that for every victory he had against the Ottomans, he built a beautiful painted monastery. And there's painted monasteries all up and down Romania and mostly Moldova. And some of these monasteries are very, very impressive. And the monastery where he is buried is one of the finest examples of Byzantine beauty you can possibly ever see. And if you get a chance to see it, I urge you to see it. Stephen the Great. And I'm glad that he's here looking out upon a city I think he would be glad to see is on the up. Look at that view that he has. What a dramatic turnaround. If you remember when we were last here, the fountain wasn't functioning, the pool was all cracked, the tiles were all cracked. It looked kind of bleak. We're basically next to the Alley of Classics. People celebrated back in the Soviet days. There were 12 originally, but if you were to follow this line all the way down, there are now 28 individuals, including Alexander Puskin. At the end here, his bust is right down here, which I think we're going to go have a look at. And what a turnaround for Chișinău. The fact that we had this beautiful park, we got the kids playing on their cars, something that you see all over the old Soviet countries. And what a turnaround. We got the benches are all painted, and it really is phenomenal. And the coolingness of the fountain is it's got like a light breeze. It really is quite phenomenal. But let's go and have a look at Pushkin, shall we? Because he deserves a little bit of attention. Now, many of you who have seen my other videos, mostly from places like Odessa, Chișinău, places around Ukraine, you would have noticed that Alexander Pushkin features a lot in my videos. And the reason he obviously features here is we spoke earlier. Mihail Orlov was a personal friend of his, all because Alexander Pushkin lived in Chișinău for a while. After he left Odessa, similar to my situation yesterday, I left Odessa yesterday. I came to Chișinău just like Alexander Pushkin did, but Alexander Pushkin came here in the 1820s, which is why he would have had many raucous talks and evenings with Mihail Orlov. He was a troubled man, but at the same time probably one of Russia's greatest poets, one of Russia's original poets, and the reason the Russians have so much love for poetry. Very talented individual. His great-grandfather was a very important man from Africa, hence the reason Alexander Pushkin was of mixed race. He came from a noble family from Moscow originally, so Russian. He spent his later years, his teenage years in St. Petersburg before he traveled down into what we now know as southern Ukraine, spending time in Odessa, then in Moldova. But his life would effectively be ended once he went back to St. Petersburg. Well, he was summoned to St. Petersburg because his poem was found with the Decemberists. You might remember from when we were talking about the Decemberists, which happened in 1825, December 15th, 1825, the uprising of the 3000. His poetry was found in some of their belongings. So he was summoned to St. Petersburg by, at the time, the Tsar Nicholas, to answer, maybe you encouraged these people, maybe you were part of these people. He was placed under watch, he couldn't leave St. Petersburg. But effectively, he then met a 16-year-old beauty, and he then married her. He was a bit of a Casanova. He'd been married before, and he'd met many ladies along the years, hence the reason his love for poetry. Some of the poetry was aimed at many of the women. But the 16-year-old woman that he would eventually marry would possibly be his downfall, because 6 years later, as the marriage became a little bit troubled, possibly getting close to the 7-year itch, as we change and we change as people, she would be out seen flirting with other men, and he took it upon himself to basically cause a duel, summon for a duel back in, I think, January 1837. It was a duel where both participants have a gun. Imagine this, you're holding a gun and you have one bullet. Imagine you start from as far down as there and the other person starts at the other side. You continue to walk towards each other, and as you walk towards each other, you have that one chance to fire the bullets. The man he was fighting against was a man called Dantes or Dantes. Pushkin fired second. He got hit, but it went through his abdomen, causing basically a lethal wound. But he continued. Pushkin then fired at Dantes, but he only wounded his arm. 2 days later, Pushkin would be dead. So there's a thing, and I've spoken about this before. I think I spoke about this in Hmelnytsky. Don't allow a woman to be your downfall. Swallow your pride sometimes, be the better man, and learn to walk away from a fight. A lady is never worth dying in a duel for, and especially if a lady has been seen out flirting. Don't be the simp, walk away, live to fight another day. I think it's sad to see we've got European Union propaganda here. The forces that be are pushing for a larger European Union, and that means encompassing the Moldovans. Now, obviously, a lot of Moldovans would benefit from being part of the European Union, but what they fail to understand, it's the end of a nation, it's the end of nationality. It means open borders, it means you lose your sovereignty. I don't think that's the way to go. I love Europe, as everyone knows. I'm a big fan of every single European country. I love it for its individualism. I love it for the fact that each nation is unique. The European Union, though, wants to abolish nations and basically wants us moving from place to find work, and globo homo, which is globo homogenous, and I fundamentally disagree with that, especially when it's a corrupt political union where those in charge of each state are taking huge payments from the corporations. They get lobbied every single day from the corporations, and they are unaccountable. You know what? It's a new sign, and I think I have a newfound love for Chișinău from what I've seen so far. Even this is improved. This old Soviet building over here, we can see there's a little bit of improvement. And this courtyard was just basically completely destroyed. There were potholes and it wasn't very nice. And look at this, we've got the fountains flowing, we've got these epic big benches, people gathering to have their photos done next to these impressive fountains. It feels like a place you want to be. It feels like a place that you bring your family to. It feels like a place that you're very proud to be in. I have to say, very, very impressed. Right next to the main cinema in Chișinău is a statue of Mihail Orlov. Apologies, brutalizing his name. But he's effectively known as Moldova's greatest director. Although I have to admit, I've never seen any of his work, but he's clearly celebrated here in Moldova. And what a proud-looking statue! Looks like a bit of a cad, really. I think he'd be very pleased with that. This is definitely a new addition since I was last here, and obviously a place I'm very fond of. You would have seen these places in every single Ukrainian video I've pretty much done since, I think, they started really appearing from like 2017, 2018 onwards in Ukraine, and then they spread through into Poland. Now we see them in Moldova. This is a brand that I hope actually comes to London one day.
I really appreciate the fact you've got this far in the video. If you have got this far in the video, leave a comment below just to let me know that you listened to this. Also, if you haven't clicked that like button already, do smash that like button. It really helps this video gain traction, and it really does motivate me to continue making more videos like this.
I love the policeman's hats. They're oversized, but you know what? I think they're quite nice. Similar to the carriages you would have noticed in the film Schindler's List, where the Jews are being taken off to the concentration camps. We've got to remember, under the Soviet Union, individuals lost their liberty, they lost their future, they lost their lives by being taken off to the various gulags located around the old Soviet Union. Many would be taken to Siberia to basically be put to hard labor to effectively die. And they would have been put into these moving coffins, or moving transport vehicles, as you could say, and frozen along route, eventually get there, and they'd experience hardship, and very few would survive. If you're interested in learning about the history of the gulags, Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote the amazing book, The Gulag Archipelago. I've put a link in the description of this if you really want the best insight into the gulags, because that is a life-changing book, and I think it should be read by everyone. I think it is required reading for anyone who has a tiny little bit of interest in history and the gulags. I mean, it has to be said, what a dramatic change. We've got the French cafe over there called Bonjour, and then we've got artists lining this promenade which lights up at night, showing their amazing paintings. I have to say, I didn't remember seeing any of this when I was last here, and this is really nice. So artisan wares, artisan things made by locals. It's a nice touch. This is where Alexander Pushkin used to live. He lived here between 1820 and 1823. If only he decided to stay here, he wouldn't have died in St. Petersburg in 1833, 10 years later. This rather impressive bust, one of many busts that we've found along the sidewalks of Chișinău. Karol Schmidt. Karol is a man's name in Moldova. Karol was the mayor between 1877 and 1903, and it makes me wonder, was he as highly regarded as the current mayor? Was he putting in all of these wonderful pavements like the current mayor? I know that Chișinău used to shine, so maybe he was responsible for that, and that's why he's held in high esteem. Or maybe he was a corrupt politician, like 99.9% of politicians are corrupt. But I'm going to have hope that this man was a good man. This is phenomenal, off the main street in Chișinău. It's all been upgraded. Like, everything you see here is a new addition to the Moldovan capital, making it beautiful, making it impressive. I have to say, I'm not sure what this art is, but you know what? Every city needs a little bit of art. It's not, at least it's not woke and it's not garish, but this lady here. Got some flowers here, sitting down. I like this. Umbrella, leaning against the side. It's like she's probably like wondering where her man's disappeared to. And then look over here. It's beautiful. Got these little tables out here. And what I like about Chișinău in the summer is they go to town. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but cooling the air down with these little sprays. But what a romantic little place to spend the evening. Look at this. Sipping Moldovan wine. As Edith Piaf flares in the background, we've got checkers, well, backgammon, chess, permanent fixtures. Do you not regret having a terrible mayor in your town, or terrible leaders, when you could have the mayor of Chișinău? I should work for this guy, shouldn't I?
When you try your best but you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need.
I genuinely do not recognize the city. Look how brand new these lines are. It says do not touch the sculptures, because they are that new. You can see that this is all recently done. I hate to say it, but maybe there's a connection to the European Union there, but this is beautiful. All brand new. Look, you can have nice things, still keep with tradition. Or you can elect Sadiq can't. I appreciate my international viewers won't understand that, but it makes me so angry that the city I'm from, the city I live in, can't do things as impressive as this. And we all remember just how down and out Chișinău used to be. So there is hope for every city around the world.
So tired that you can't sleep, stuck in reverse, and the tears come streaming down your face. When you lose something you can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste, could it be worse?
I just had a wonderful lunch at Andy's restaurant. It seems to be like one of the biggest chains over here. I appreciate I probably shouldn't be supporting like the big chains, but Andy's has Andy's Coffee, Andy's Express, Andy's Pizza, Andy's Restaurant. It was good. It was good. It was consistent. It got the job done. So that now the tour continues as we continue onwards to find out a little bit more about this wonderful city. This is the thing about all the ex-Soviet countries. They're very fond of their flowers. They're much more romantic than us in the West. And the weird thing is, flowers are far more affordable in the old Soviet countries. I basically include the Balkans, the Baltics, any of the old Soviet bloc countries, the flowers are just super affordable. So the men have really no excuse when it comes to buying beautiful flowers. And what a selection they have here. It's beautiful though, very beautiful. I almost feel guilty, so I will, you know, what will I do with them? Who would you be buying these flowers for right now, if you could? Anyone in special? I'm sure there'd be someone. And what would you be buying? Roses? Sunflowers? Tulips? Daffodils? I don't know. Some for grandma? Sunflowers? Orchids? I have to say, my nose has not been working that well since I had COVID a long time ago. But the smell here is overwhelming, and it's sort of indication that I think it's back to full functionality now. These flowers continue all the way up one side, from south to north on the eastern side of the park. Really beautiful. Oh, there's a vacancy if anyone wants to be a flower seller. There's clearly enough demand for it. Another vacancy. But not that many vacancies. I'm always of the preference that you should buy flowers in pots. That way you can keep them for longer. And it's a stark contrast, because on the other side we've got these fairly bland places, a couple of pubs, a very busy road, and then on this side, tranquility with all of the beautiful flowers. Real tranquility. And it just keeps going. It keeps going on and on, but I think that's enough flowers for the day. The Moldovan National Museum over here. Now you might remember my video, 5 days in Moldova. This I included in my video, for over, I think it was about a quarter, and if it was slightly under a quarter, there was so much footage from this museum that I think it would be crazy to do follow-up, because it's a museum at the end of the day. And I think my impressions of that museum was the fact that there were just so many busts of Lenin. There were so many exhibits when it came to Stalin and Lenin and tanks and guns and weaponry. I was generally very impressed, but at the same time I was also much of an amateur. If I have time to go in there, I will, and I think it will merit its own individual video, because it was that sort of a museum. It was impressive. My videos I think have come a long way in the fact that places like that should really merit their own videos. But this video, we're going to be exploring the ups and downs of Chișinău, and we continue. Now I think this is probably the first street I ever found myself on when I arrived. I stayed in a hostel, I think it was either down here or it was either the next street. And I remember arriving like late in the night, having just got off a flight. I think it was from Bucharest to Chișinău. And I got dropped off by a taxi driver. And I have to say, I was a bit like, what is going on? Because there were no street lights, there was no traffic in any of the streets, and I didn't know what to make of the place. It wasn't until the morning did I feel like I was anywhere. It's weird being back here, but it's really nice being back here and just seeing these amazing changes. I've done it again. Last time I was here, this place was closed. It's now open. It's cost 10 lei to get in, and I only have Ukrainian hryvnia and US dollars and euros, and they won't accept that, and there's no euro to change around here. So unless I find one, I can't go up there. I've come up to the northern side of the city. You might remember this from my, well, a long time ago, I keep saying that. And this is the beautiful park that's situated in the northern side of the city. And I thought, let's go and see if this has changed. Let's see if it's gone from shabby to a little bit more chic. Already I can see big improvement. Look at this.
Ajungem poi mâine la spate.
It's a shame I'm here when it's so late in the day. The sun is kind of ruining the shot for me. Hopefully it means I'm going to stop getting frazzled a little bit, despite I've had factor 50 on today. You can tell I've missed a little bit, you see. Sporting the old Bruce Willis vest. I did think when I was last here, this is one of the more peaceful places in Chișinău. The noisy roads, when they were sort of hot-holed, seem to make them more noisy, other than when you hear sirens back there. It's quieting down as a city despite it being noisier because the roads are just in much better condition. But as you can see, this is actually I'm pretty sure it was like this before, but it was what was down below, which is more shabby. So we're going to go see. And the reason to head this direction is right on the other side of the lake, which is in that direction. I'm hoping we can still find a statue of Vladimir Lenin. Let's see if we can find the Vladimir Lenin statue. I mean, look at this. It doesn't really become a better day than blue skies, sunshine. Look at these benches, all beautifully painted. There's not really anyone here, but we're going to walk the entire length of this lake, which is, I think, what we did last time, but we walked from the other direction. So I'm going in a clockwise fashion this time in the lake to get to Vladimir Lenin. As much as I hate communism, I do quite enjoy seeing these relics of the past still available to the public. I'm a little bit different to Antifa, who like to tear history down. I like to preserve it and so we can remember the tyrants. Give you some perspective on this lake. We're about a quarter of the way round, or just a bit under. We came in from over here and we're going to go all the way down to over here. But as you'll notice over here, you'll see a beach. That's a beach where people can swim in the lake. There's a lifeguard, there's a place for people to hang out, have drinks. Honestly, it's really, really nice here. I think a lot of people that came here in the past are going to have to come back and just reevaluate things. It's kind of fitting, really, to get to Lenin. I thought I'd take a shortcut. I ended up taking a walk through the swamp. Just hope I can get there without running into any commies. This is not a place you want to be at night time. Oh my god. It's almost like the place has been cursed by communism. The closer you get to Lenin, the more communist it looks like. Yikes. I mean, this could get very shady. In the shadow of one of the world's worst dictators, one of the founders of the founder of the Soviet Union. We have men fighting, young chaps playing by him, and right next to him is Karl Marx. I mean, this is iconic, really, in a really negative way. Actually, no, that's Karl Marx over there. Is Trotsky? It probably is, isn't it? Name's been stolen, but it could be Trotsky. You forgive me, but that's definitely Karl Marx over there. And here we have Lenin. He came to power effectively as the First World War was in its third year, 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution. And he seized power with the Bolsheviks and caused the destruction that we know. Evil man, and eventually died, I think, in 1924. And then obviously Stalin took over. I think he died at the age of 53. But what an awful individual. But at the same time, weird to see him. In a way, it's kind of nice that the kids are using it as a playground. That's all it's really good for. A skate park for kids. In a way, I'm kind of glad that it's away from everything. It's a fair trek to get here, and I don't recommend going through the swamp. It gets a little bit problematic on one's shoes. I think I've ruined my shoes. I think I'm going to go back to the city now. I love the signs back here. It says keep off the grass, but locals are ignoring it. It's connected to this beach club, which is right by the lake. And it's a sort of trendy beach club. Obviously this is all public. If you want to go to the beach club, get yourself an expensive cocktail or have a drink. It is really, really nice vibe. I mean, the temperature's about 32 degrees, so it's a bit sweltering, hence the reason I'm sweating. But it's really nice. You can get cocktails here. Look at this. Cocktails and fresh beer and lemonade. Here's Express. Not too bad, eh? I think it's... should we wander in, have a look? Have a look at the menu maybe, see how much it is. So 20 was €1, if it gives you some idea, so 200 is £10. So probably 11, 12 euros for a burger. The Bonjour Cafe has become a franchise. There's another one down here by the water's edge. We've got a little private terrace area down here. People sort of running, jogging, cycling. Babushkas selling their little things. There hasn't been too much of that. Most people have generally just been taking part in leisure. There's only a few selling a few toys. Why not? As the sun sets behind me, we've completed the lake. We're now going to head off into the direction of the centre of the city. Am I going to have some fine wine? And that would be my little excursion to Chișinău.
Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
I'm always amazed anywhere I go, anywhere in the world, the most secure, the most prison-like embassies in every country, in every jurisdiction in all of the world is always the US embassy. It looks like a prison. You can't get in, you can't get out. Any other embassy, was a German one, look back there, it looks like an office, whereas the US always way so much security. Maybe there's something wrong with the foreign policy when your security for your embassies need to be like that. Anyway, for example, this is the Mexican one, and I think they're taking after their North American cousins. A lot of security, but less security. Doesn't look like a prison, the Mexican one. I wonder which embassy this might be. We've got cameras everywhere. This is just on the north side of the city. We have a lot of embassies. Hotel maybe, a modern hotel. Charlie Chaplin's favourite hotel, the Savoy Hotel in London. That looks like a nice hotel, 4-star, 5-star hotel. 5-star hotel. It looks like it's not open yet. And then there's another gated community over here. So the north side of the city, a lot of security, a lot of VIPs, a lot of stay out of my yard type characters. It may not be Moldovan, it's far from Moldovan, but at the end of effectively walking around for 10 hours or so, and it's 32 degrees in the sunshine, I'm exhausted. It's time to have a beer. It's time to cheers to Moldova, cheers to Chișinău, cheers to getting your act together. I am very, very impressed. As I walk closer to my hotel, I'm not sure if I appreciate this statue that much. He's clearly waiting for his date. He's been there a little bit too long. She's late. She's finally getting there because she's without her shoes. She's like, oh, sorry, I'm late. But notice where everyone's been touching her. Either the nose or the two nipples. But it's a nice statue. It's a beautiful walkway.
Hello.
How are you doing?
You want the banana?
A banana. And here's the hotel I'm staying in. It's a really nice hotel, actually. It's a 4-star hotel. You want to guess how much it is a night? It's about £40 a night. Absolute bargain. Really nice hotel. Only negative is blaring music from outside, which you can hear from the 4th floor. Right. Final thoughts. It was a really, really good 24 hours in Chișinău. I'm disappointed I have to leave. I'm heading to Romania next. I would have liked to have spent more time in Moldova. I would have liked to have headed back to Transnistria. Watch this space, I think I might be doing that soon. It's just a case of when. But next stop, Romania. And unlike my huge epic video in Romania, this one will be individual little towns when I see how many I see. So stick with me.